Thank you for calling and sharing. And shall we take our next call, please? Good evening. Welcome to Open Forum.
Good evening, Brother Camping. Nice to talk to you this evening. My question is, when Christ said to Peter, "Upon this rock I will build my church," and said also that he would be with the church till the end of time, what exactly was the spiritual meaning of that passage? And I will take my answer over the air. Thank you very much. Nice to talk to you.
The fact is that this is our caller is quoting from Matthew chapter 16, and Christ is telling Peter, who has just indicated, "Thou art the Christ, the Son of the living God," or words to that effect. And then God tells Peter, "Thou art Peter, and on this rock." Now the rock is Christ. He is the only rock upon which God builds his church. It is not on Peter. Now it's true that the word Peter is almost the same spelling as the word rock, but it's not the same spelling. There's one letter that is different, and that makes it a different word. Thou art Petros, and on this rock, that is another word than the word Peter. On this rock I will build my church, and the gates of hell shall not prevail against it. Now, when God uses the word church, we have to be very careful, because we find, for example, in Revelation 2 and Revelation 3, where God speaks about 7 churches and speaks of many churches. This message is for the churches. And those churches were still subject to hell. God warned some of them, if the church at Ephesus, if you don't return to your first love, I will take away your candlestick. In another church, he said, you are a dead church, the church at Sardis. And those churches, in fact, eventually disappeared from the face of the earth. They were in what we know now as the land of Turkey, and yet a few hundred years after they were formed, they disappeared altogether. But God, and so everyone throughout the church age was commanded to be a part of a church, a local congregation, such as these 7 churches. But everyone who's a member of a church, we can't say that the gates of hell should not prevail against him, because if that person is still an unsaved person, and the Bible clearly teaches in many different ways that the churches would be have plenty of unsaved people within them who were convinced they were saved, who looked like they were saved, but were not actually saved. God called them tares, or called them chaff, and so on. But here we find that it says the gates of hell shall not prevail. Now there's only one way that the gates of hell cannot prevail against a person, and that is if he is truly saved. If all of his sins have been paid for, then hell has no claim on that person. But anyone whose sins have not been paid for, and that's anyone in the world, whether they're in the church or outside of the church, if they are not the elect of God, their sins have not been paid for, and the gates of hell have a claim on them, because the law of God declares the wages of sin is death, and the death that God has in mind is the second death, eternal damnation in hell. And so when Christ says, I will build my church, and the gates of hell shall not prevail against it, he is speaking, I will save those that I plan to save, and insofar as they are concerned, they may be a member of a church, they might not be a member of a church. As a matter of fact, we know as God is opening our spiritual eyes more and more as to what the Bible is teaching, that in our day, completely outside of churches, God is building a huge church, an eternal church, against which the gates of hell cannot prevail. That is, He is saving a great multitude which no man can number, and every one of them, becomes an eternal member of the eternal church that God is still building today. But it has nothing at all to do with a local congregation.